Hollywood has a secret nobody wants to acknowledge out loud, and it's this. At least 7 massive blockbusters scheduled for 2026 are already causing quiet panic inside studio executive offices. These aren't films that might disappoint or have a weak opening weekend, and we're talking about projects with budgets exceeding $200 million that could drain studio coffers while simultaneously destroying entire franchises in the process. The strangest part is how completely predictable these disasters actually are. Avengers Doomsday represents the biggest gamble on the calendar when it arrives December 18th, and the surface details make it sound like guaranteed success. The Russo brothers have returned to direct. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, playing Dr. Doom this time. And Disney is almost certainly pouring $400 million or more into production. What nobody's addressing is the elephant in the room. The MCU isn't the powerhouse it once was, and the last few years have been punishing for Marvel's bottom line. The Marvels crashed so spectacularly it barely crossed 200 million worldwide, while Quantumania couldn't even reach 500 million despite featuring Kang as the central villain. Audience exhaustion is real and measurable after sitting through countless Disney Plus shows that felt more like expensive homework than entertainment. And now, Marvel is asking these same tired viewers to invest emotionally in a universe that lost its heart when Tony Stark died in Endgame. Quality isn't even the issue with Doomsday because the film might actually turn out great, but the math requires over $1 billion just to break even. And right now, Marvel cannot guarantee that kind of turnout anymore. Robert Downey Jr.'s face on the poster doesn't change the fact that audiences have learned they can wait for streaming. And when this movie stumbles with only 600 or 700 million worldwide, Disney will be staring down one of the most expensive failures in cinema history. Star Wars deserves attention next because apparently nobody at Lucasfilm absorbed any lessons from the sequel trilogy's reception. The Mandalorian and Grogu lands in theaters May 22nd, 2026, and warning signs are flashing everywhere you look. The Mandalorian show itself has lost the phenomenon status it enjoyed during Season 1, with viewership declining steadily through each subsequent season. Complaints about filler episodes and a story spinning its wheels dominated Season 3 discussions. And while I hate to point this out because I genuinely like the guy, we're experiencing peak Pedro Pascal oversaturation right now. Between The Last of Us, Gladiator 2, and this theatrical release, he's become inescapable, and that kind of overexposure historically destroys audience interest faster than almost anything else. What makes this riskier is Lucasfilm taking a streaming show and attempting to transform it into a theatrical event worth the price of admission. Those episodes cost around $15 million each to produce with full seasons, running about $120 million. And now they're creating a movie version with theatrical production values, which puts the budget at $200 million minimum. Yet Star Wars as a brand is struggling badly because the sequels divided the fan base down the middle. The Disney Plus shows have been inconsistent at best, and there's simply no goodwill remaining in the tank. This movie needs to demonstrate that Star Wars can still pull massive crowds without the Skywalker name attached to the marquee. A typical May release performance bringing in $400 million globally will trigger a very uncomfortable conversation at Lucasfilm about whether theatrical Star Wars films even have a future. Supergirl. Woman of Tomorrow arrives June 26th, and while I genuinely want DC's reboot to succeed, this casting decision looks like James Gunn setting himself up for a painful lesson in box office reality. Supergirl has never once functioned as a successful theatrical property in her entire existence. The 1984 movie with Helen Slater lost money for the studio. The TV show started with decent numbers but bled viewers every season until cancellation, and there's zero evidence that general audiences care enough about this character to purchase a movie ticket. The timing makes it worse because this releases 1 year after Superman. Legacy. We have no idea yet whether Superman will actually work with audiences, though early buzz suggests it might perform okay, with maybe 500 million worldwide, which for a Superman movie carrying a $300 million budget is barely scraping past breaking even. Superman struggling means Supergirl walking straight into a massacre, because you're asking people to invest in a shared universe that hasn't proven itself yet, with a character who has zero box office track record to stand on. The smart strategy would have been waiting to see if Superman landed with audiences, building some momentum and goodwill before expanding. DC instead is going all in on a character most moviegoers associate exclusively with a cheesy 80s flop and a canceled CW show that nobody watched. Masters of the Universe drops June 5th in what might be a completely different kind of disaster, though equally concerning when you examine the fundamentals. This movie has been trapped in development hell for decades at this point, and the 1987 Dolph Lundgren film lost money for the studio back then. Countless attempts to reboot it have been made since, and every single one has collapsed before cameras could roll. But now they're finally making it happen with a director and cast nobody actually asked for while banking everything on 80s nostalgia. Nostalgia is a trap that studios keep falling into because they think Transformers and G.I. Joe making money 15 years ago means any 80s property can work. He-Man doesn't have the same cultural footprint that those franchises enjoyed, and outside of a very specific demographic of men in their 40s and 50s, nobody cares about this IP at all. Kids today have zero connection to it. International audiences definitely don't care about American toy commercials from 40 years ago. And the people who grew up with it probably aren't rushing to theaters for a modern reimagining they never wanted. Add what's almost certainly going to be a massive VFX budget because they have to build Eternia from scratch in CGI. And you're looking at a $200 million movie with a niche fan base. And that's the exact formula for losing $150 million. The Hunger Games. Sunrise on the Reaping arrives November 20th, and I'll admit this one makes me sad because I loved the original trilogy when it mattered. The franchise peaked during the Jennifer Lawrence era when those movies functioned as genuine cultural events, and the last one came out in 2015, still making over $650 million worldwide, even as the finale in a played-out series. They tried bringing it back in 2023 with The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which made $337 million globally. And that's not a disaster on paper, but it's definitely not a win when you factor in the marketing spend. Now they're making another prequel that nobody asked for based on a book that doesn't even exist yet, because it's coming out in 2025, just months before the movie releases. This feels like Lionsgate desperately trying to squeeze the last drops of profit from a franchise that's already past its expiration date, and without Jennifer Lawrence or the original characters or anything new to say, this movie is fighting an uphill battle it cannot win. Casual fans aren't going to show up for this. Die-hard book readers might buy tickets, but that's not enough to justify the production and marketing costs, and this is going to open to $30 million domestically while struggling to hit $300 million worldwide. What it will confirm is what we already know, which is that The Hunger Games as a franchise is finished. The Last Airbender hits theaters October 9th, and before anyone gets excited, no, this isn't the animated series coming back. It's a live-action adaptation, which, yes, means another one of those. The 2010 M. Night Shyamalan Disaster still ranks as one of the worst blockbusters ever made and killed any chance of sequels before the opening weekend was over. But apparently, Netflix and Paramount think audiences have forgotten about that trauma because they're trying again. The Netflix live-action show that came out recently got mixed reactions at best, with some people liking it, while many others thought it was unnecessary and couldn't capture the magic of the original animation. And now, they're trying to turn that into a theatrical film, presumably, with a budget in the $150 to $200 million range. What's going to happen is predictable if you understand the fan base at all. Fans of the animated series who you'd think would be the core audience are going to avoid this out of principle because they've been burned before, twice now, and they don't trust live-action Avatar anymore. General audiences don't care enough about this IP to take a chance on it when streaming offers safer entertainment, and international markets where you'd hope to make up the difference aren't going to show up for what looks like a generic fantasy film with no hook. This isn't going to launch the next big franchise, and instead, it's going to become a cautionary tale about trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place. Dune. Part 3 also hits December 18th alongside Avengers Doomsday, which means Warner Bros. Is going head-to-head with Marvel on the same weekend. Brilliant strategy there. The Dune movies are films I actually love because Denis Villeneuve is a master filmmaker working at the top of his craft. But these films have never been the massive box office juggernauts people pretend they are when discussing them online. Dune. Part 1. Made $400 million worldwide and needed HBO Max to supplement those numbers just to be considered successful, while Part 2 did better with $714 million, but that's still not Star Wars or Marvel money. Both of those movies had the benefit of being first in a new series, being critical darlings that reviewers loved, and riding a wave of genuine excitement from audiences discovering something fresh. Part 3 is going to be the conclusion of Paul's story with a runtime probably exceeding 3 hours. Dark and complex themes that don't play well everywhere, and a budget of at least $200 million to realize Villeneuve's vision. The question that matters is whether audiences will show up in even bigger numbers for a third installment when it's competing with Avengers and releasing during the most crowded part of the year. Skepticism is warranted here because Dune appeals to a specific type of moviegoer who wants thoughtful science fiction, and it's not the kind of franchise that grows exponentially with each film like Marvel or Fast and Furious. It's the kind that peaks early and then maintains or slightly declines as the story wraps up. And if Part 3 makes the same as Part 2, then Warner Bros. Is probably okay with that outcome. The problem comes if it drops to 500 or 600 million because of the Avengers competition and general franchise fatigue, which is when the math stops working and executives start asking hard questions. Out of all these movies, which one do you think is going to bomb the hardest when the dust settles in 2026? My money's on Masters of the Universe or The Last Airbender delivering the most spectacular failures, though I could easily see Supergirl or even Avengers shocking everyone with a disappointing run that nobody saw coming. Hit that subscribe button if you found this interesting, because I'll be tracking all of these releases in 2026 to see if I was right or completely wrong about everything. Drop a comment with your prediction on which one of these makes its money back and which one becomes a legendary disaster that film schools study for decades. And I'll see you in the next one.